What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. Chris Pinello here. We're going my final thoughts for week 2 of the NFL season for DraftKings and FanDuel. We'll be going position by position, talking cash, talking stacks for tournaments. We'll build a lineup as we progress through this, more so for a single entry tournament build. Then at the end, I'm an optimizer to see who is populating the most as of right now. And if you're new, I'm not here to spoon feed you guys picks. I want you guys to get better at playing DFS. I want you guys to be able to make your own decisions. I'm here to talk process when building lineups on Sundays, and we're going to analyze and interpret the data that we look at every single week to make it make sense for fantasy football purposes. So if that sounds good to you, do me a favor, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel for brand new, and let's dive right into it. And as always, we'll start with the quarterback position, and quite a few options I think we have this week. There are several games I am looking to stack up in tournaments. Just for some cash game thoughts though, I want to stick to the quarterbacks that can use their legs because they offer the best floor and ceiling combination. And if we're having trouble through the air, as long as we can use our legs, that's all I ask for. So guys that would meet that criteria: Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Jaden Daniels. Everybody else here is pretty much a pocket passer. Patrick Mahomes is a bit mobile, and he would probably be the one quarterback that isn't, like a Lamar Jackson type of guy that I would consider for cash games this week, because I think the ownership will be high enough to where it can offset a bit. But Jaden Daniels, for me, I think is the clear-cut cash game option this weekend. He's only up about $500. From last weekend, amazing game versus Tampa. I'm not saying it's going to happen again just because he did well last week. But if he's going to run the ball pretty similar to what we saw versus the Buccaneers, maybe it's not going to be as much. It's probably not going to be 2 rushing touchdowns again. But I believe his props are somewhere around 50 yards this weekend. I have no issues with that at all. I have him projected to be the highest owned quarterback of the week, the best point per dollar option. And then raw projection-wise, I have him top 3 as well. And that's not even including salary. I actually even have him higher than Patrick Mahomes. So at that price point, and I'm not saying that's a guarantee, everything's based off a median average basis when running simulations, but at $6,200, kind of hard to beat that for cash games. Just to give you guys an example of how important it is for quarterbacks to use their legs, like we have Patrick Mahomes at 270 passing yards pretty much, Jared Goff at right around 275 as well, then obviously pretty good in the touchdown department, almost nearly at 2 as they're both in the 1.8 range. And Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels are all the way down here at 210, 222. We have Kyler Murray all the way down at 226. But if you look what they can do on their legs, it just boosts that projection up so much. Like Lamar's top of the slate. I have Jaden Daniels, just of the group we're talking about. Obviously, I do have the entire slate projected out. Just trying to show the handful that I have. But as you can see, Jaden Daniels, 20.93. That's higher than Patrick Mahomes. That's higher than Jared Goff, despite them having much higher passing props, way higher than Matthew Stafford this week. So don't skip leg day, folks, at the quarterback position, especially in cash games when you can. But cash games are boring, so let's talk some tournaments. We'll start with Patrick Mahomes, $7,000. Just really easy to stack with him because we know where the ball is going. Hollywood Brown is now out, and it looks like he might be out for the entire season. Could be able to come back to the playoffs, I guess, based off an IG post someone said. But very easy to stack because this ball is going to Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, and then sometimes Xavier Worthy. Obviously, Isaiah Pacheco is going to get his in the backfield, but a 27-point implied team total, which I believe is only behind the Detroit Lions this week. And his stacking options are not that expensive. Rashee Rice is either in the 6 to 7K range. And I know for sure Travis Kelce is in the lower 6K range. So very easy to stack. Mahomes is not overly expensive. They're playing at home. And if you do want to game stack it, you could run it back with Jamar Chase, who historically has done pretty well versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And it looks like T. Higgins will be out. So you also have Yoshi. There's a cheaper option. I know he didn't do amazing last weekend, but he was involved and had several targets. So love this game quite a bit, and I'll definitely be getting exposure to it. Talked about Kyler Murray. Jared Goff, $6,400, and then Baker Mayfield down here at $5,900. I definitely have a lot of interest in both of these teams. Obviously, Detroit is going to project a bit better, 29.5 implied team total, which is the highest of the week. They are 7.5-point favorites at home, and the highest total of the week at 51.5 for the over-under. And both these teams do struggle defensively versus the quarterback position. Tampa was 27th last year and Detroit was 30th. And in week 1, both teams gave up some pretty hefty numbers to quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford over 300 passing yards, and then Jaden Daniels nearly at 30 fantasy points. And there is very clear-cut stacking options with these guys. Jared Goff has Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, even Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield. Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. You also have the rookie Jalen McMillan and Cade Otton if you want to get a little weird. And if we head over to the stack page here, as you can see, I have Detroit by far the top dog. Jared Goff projects well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, both of the running backs. If you want to go specifically to like the pass catching options mainly, I have KC leading everybody this week. Which is one of the other reasons why I just love Patrick Mahomes, because I love all the stacking options with them, and it's really not that expensive. As you can see over on DraftKings, they're $200 cheaper overall. But then over on FanDuel, nearly $600 cheaper than the Detroit stack, which is very expensive over there. And I do want to point out that the Rams are just a little bit lower down here if you're looking at specifically quarterback, wide receiver, and tight end. But we need to look at the price point. Like, for example, Detroit, $5,300, Kansas City, $51. They're only coming in at $4,600 for their average price on offense. And they're still pretty high up despite being so much lower in the DK salary pool down here. We actually have to scroll, and they're below the Las Vegas Raiders. And if we go specifically to wide receiver, I have them second, only behind Dallas. And that's pretty good considering Cooper Kupp's in the 7K range. And then the other guys, Demarcus Robinson, Tyler Johnson, are all very cheap. So that's just some food for thought there. I don't think I have to talk about Matthew Stafford. I think you guys know the drill by now. Obviously, Puka Nacua is out, but love the game environment overall. One of my favorite games of the week. The only problem with Stafford is that, offensive line looking very, very rough, and that could pose some issues. And he's also not going to run the football, so the floor is definitely a lot lower. But that's why in tournaments, if he can get those passing touchdowns and get that 300-yard bonus, he's certainly in play. If you want to play Cooper Kupp this week, Demarcus Robinson, or Kobe Parkinson, you don't have to stack with Matthew Stafford. There's other ways to do it, but all these guys do look like pretty good plays at their very, very low price points. And then Brock Purdy, everyone and their mom is going to play Jordan Mason this week, obviously. How cheap he is. He's going to be in the bell cut role with no CMC. And we just saw what he did in prime time. Everybody saw it on Monday night. Absolute nuke. If you want to get different, don't play Jordan Mason. Play the passing attack for Brock Purdy on the road in the Dome. And it's very easy to do so. You have Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. And they have one of the higher implied team totals of the week at 25.8. And if it's not Jordan Mason scoring touchdowns, this is a great way to get different in tournaments. All right, moving over to our lineup. Always a disclaimer here. I apologize for saying it, but I have to. Don't copy and paste this, guys. I am building it on the fly. I'm just using the roster construction process that I would recommend you guys use in your own lineups. Obviously, you don't have to use the same plays, but if you want to use your own favorite plays and apply this process, you can certainly feel free to do so. This is not a million maker type build. I don't play in that contest. It's a waste of money. If you want to throw a dart in it, be my guest, but don't expect to make money. All right, let's find a quarterback. Let's just go with Patrick Mahomes. It's a fun name, fun guy to play, and I know who I want to stack him with. Good chance we see Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce in the near future here. Let's move on to running backs. And I know we didn't talk about him, and he's only on the FanDuel slate, but Caleb Williams over on Prize Picks once again has a prop at 0.5 passing yards. Basically a gimme. And also Underdog is doing the same thing as they have several. CeeDee Lamb at 0.5 receiving yards. I'll certainly be taking advantage of that. And if you want to do that yourself, all you gotta do is head over to Prize Picks or Underdog using the link down below. Make sure you use promo code CPEN to get your deposit match bonus up to $100. And moving on to the running backs, always super fun to talk about. They're all projected like 12 to 15 points as long as you're an RB1. It's like, ugh. But there is a handful of guys that do make a bit of a difference. Breece Hall, for one. A lot of people are going to get to him this week because we have the cheap Jordan Mason down there at $5,200. We're all assuming CMC is going to miss this game, and if that's going to be the case, Jordan Mason will be the chalk, $5,200. RB1 for an offense that should score a lot of points, and their scheme is OP. So if you're playing cash games, as long as CMC is out, Jordan Mason, Breece Hall, basically your starting points, with also Kyren Williams if you want to go the 3 running back approach. I think that's pretty much the big 3 this week. Breece, Kyren, and Mason. Kyren had a lot of Blake Corum hype heading into the season, which did bring him down. Actually, it was kind of at the end of the season when they announced he was going to be the punt returner. Everyone kind of freaked out. And then Corum doesn't see one offensive snap. Kyren Williams leads all running backs in offensive snaps last week. Just kind of funny how that works out. But I think a lot of people are going to want to go there. Obviously, a great matchup versus Arizona Cardinals. They allowed the most points running backs last season. And Kyren, if he's going to get the rock a bunch of times in a game that should put up a lot of points, I think he's too cheap on DraftKings. Breece is going to get the ball a ton, probably 20 plus times, with a good amount of that being through the air. I believe he had 6 targets last week. Obviously, the game got out of hand for them at the very end, and I believe he ceded some snaps to the backup, but that's just on the last drive. So getting to some of the guys that make sense for tournaments, I think Isaiah Pacheco, a lot of people are going to play the passing attack. I will be playing the passing attack. So for the specific lineup we are building, I will not be playing Isaiah Pacheco, because if I'm playing Patrick Mahomes, I don't want Pacheco stealing the points. So it just doesn't make any sense to play Pacheco with Patrick Mahomes, but in lineups you don't have Mahomes, Pacheco would make some sense, and obviously he's going to get the ball a ton. Jahmyr Gibbs, I do like over David Montgomery. He is $600 more, but I feel like the floor is a bit safer due to the pass catching upside. And obviously the rushing upside is pretty similar, although usually we'll see David Montgomery in around the goal line. Ramondre Stevenson, not a sexy play by any means, especially when you're on a team that has a 17.5 implied team total. They are playing at home though, but tons of volume last week. They did beat the Cincinnati Bengals, so it was a positive game script, but we're talking nearly 30 total opportunities for Ramondre Stevenson. We have a few targets, then 25 carries. Overall, really solid day. Got over 100 yards and found the end zone as well. Jerome Ford, just RB1 in Cleveland. I don't love the Browns offense here. They have a sub 20 point implied team total, but he will get the ball. Should see over 15 opportunities, and that's literally all you can ask for. So I just got news Kenneth Walker was out like 2 minutes ago, and if I did not look down on my phone, I would have missed this. So I'm glad I saw it. But Zach Charbonnet will be the RB1 now, and at $5,800, yeah, firmly in play. And honestly, I could maybe see people getting away from Kyron Williams, going Breece Hall, going Jordan Mason, then playing Charbonnet as well, just to get the cheap options. Or they might just go Charbonnet, Mason, and absolutely load up at wide receiver. So I could potentially see that maybe lowering Kyron's ownership just because you're getting an RB1 with Kenneth Walker out with Zach Charbonnet below 6K. I mean, he's $1,000 cheaper. So I could see that being a 100% possibility. Then also J.K. Dobbins, I don't mind in tournaments. A good matchup versus Carolina. Did not get a ton of volume last week, but still saw 60% of the snaps, had an overall very efficient day. All right, back to the build. Let's get a couple of running backs here. Since I'm playing Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, like they're not expensive, but they're also not like free. So while I love Breece Hall, let's just grab a couple of cheap running backs here. We'll play Charbonnet, now with Kenneth Walker being out. And then we'll take the free square Jordan Mason, assuming Christian McCaffrey is out. All right, moving on to wide receivers. A lot more fun to talk about. And I know there is a ton here, but don't fret. They're mainly just all stacking options. I know we can't stack our entire lineup, so I'll talk about some one-offs and guys that I think make a lot of sense for cash games. And in my video last week I posted on Saturday, I went over the theory and the reasons why we do stacking. It went kind of somewhat in-depth. There's just like a minute or two if you want to check that out. You certainly can. I'm not going to repeat it every single week, but there is very, very good reasons and thought processes why we do stacking each week. All right, so if we are getting into it here, obvious stacking options. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, if you have Jared Goff, Jameson Williams, I don't think I really have to go in depth there. I would say some of my favorite options for cash games this week. Obviously, number one would be Cooper Kupp if you have the money for him. $7,600 coming off a 21 target game. And Puka Nacua was out, but he did play a somewhat decent chunk in the first half. Unfortunately, left the game early. Still 21 targets for Cooper Kupp, and we know Matthew Stafford absolutely loves the guy. He's not overly expensive. He is my projected wide receiver one of the week, and he is not priced like it. We can get him $1,200 cheaper than CeeDee Lamb. And while I'm not saying it's a given, he's going to outscore CeeDee Lamb. I mean, they're still in the same tier, I would say, this weekend, but massive discount. And that should be a pretty high scoring game. So yeah, Cooper Kupp would be the number one cash option at wide receiver. I also like some of the cheaper guys on that team, Demarcus Robinson and Tyler Johnson, both options, and around $4,000 and $3,300 for TJ down there. Other options I like in cash, Rashee Rice, he's definitely playable with inside Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be a stacking option for me. I also don't hate Malik Neighbors at all. I know he popped up on the injury report, but at $1,500 versus Washington, a team that bleeds points to the wide receiver position, I think he's excellent. In cash games, I am not playing Daniel Jones this week. He almost makes sense to me for just a absolute dumpster dive stacking option with Daniel Jones, Malik Neighbors, and Wan'Dale Robinson if you wanted to get absolutely crazy, running back with Terry McLaurin if you want for the full game stack. I know it's not going to feel good, but man, all these guys are absolutely dirt cheap. Or if you don't want to use Daniel Jones, Jaden Daniels, McLaurin, run back with Neighbors, that is 100% an option. But really everybody else, it's just all about stacking here. I do think Justin Jefferson is one of my favorite tournament wide receivers on the slate right now because I do think St. Brown, Cooper Kupp, CeeDee Lamb are going to get most of the steam here. And that should leave Jefferson a little bit overlooked because I don't think people really want to pick on the San Francisco defense too much. Although they weren't that great versus wide receivers last season. And the Minnesota Vikings should be trailing this game. They are 5-point dogs. I know it's a lower implied team total, but it's somewhat decent 46.5 point over under here. We also have Jordan Addison out, and obviously TJ Hawkinson still isn't playing. So if Sam Darnold wants to move the ball, a lot of it is probably going to be from Justin Jefferson. So I don't mind this in a game stack. Like, let's say we go Brock Purdy, we have Deebo Samuel. You could run it back for the game environment with Justin Jefferson. I don't hate that idea at all. And I know we didn't talk about Aaron Rodgers because I'm not playing Aaron Rodgers this week, but Garrett Wilson and Allen Lazard I don't think are bad options at their price points for the volume that they should get. And it looks like T. Higgins is turning to be out once again as he has not practiced this week. So Yoshi Voss at $300. He was involved in the offense last week, just a very pedestrian performance overall. But it looks like the Bengals should be trailing in this game. They're on the road, 6-point dogs, and they're going to have to get up for this game. This is obviously a big AFC opponent. So if they're going to be trailing, $30, I don't mind it. All right, heading back over to our lineup here. We got to find some wide receivers. I love Rashee Rice with Patrick Mahomes, so he'll be my number one option. Also, really like Malik Neighbors this week. I'm not sure what the pricing is going to be because if I plug in Travis Kelce, a little bit of a spoiler alert there, it leaves me just under $5,000. And I obviously love Cooper Kupp too. Not sure if I'm going to be able to afford him. That leaves me at $38. So it might be a little bit tough to do that. So for right now, we'll put in a cheaper option. Let's just go with Demarcus Robinson because I know he's a bit cheaper, $4,000. That'll open up some salary. and then we'll see what comes after we talk about tight ends. And speaking of Cooper Kupp, maybe you can't get to him in DFS this week, but if you do want some action, make sure you do it with Outlier before you make any selections this weekend. They have all the data you need in one place, including every single prop on pretty much every single sports book. And they have everything on their dashboard here to help you make the best decisions all in one spot. You can look at all the entire matchup data for Cooper Kupp and the Rams offense heading versus the Arizona Cardinals this weekend. You can look at the last 10 games, last 5, look at every single prop listed here. And even better yet, we have the injury report and insights, which I love looking at every single week. Maybe you don't want to go with a Cooper Kupp prop, but down here, we can see that Kyren Williams in his last 7 games has an 86% hit rate, going over 17.5 rushing attempts in 6 of his last 7 games, averaging 20.9 rushing attempts per game. So that might seem a little bit more interesting to you. And if you want to bet it, they make it extremely easy for you. You can add it to your picks, look at your slip here, and you can bet it right on the site. You can also check out all the most positive EV bets, some of the boosts that they have on each and every single site that you might have missed this weekend. So if you want to check it out, you can use the link down below or in the pinned comment and get a free week on them. Check out all the tools that they have to offer to help you make the best decisions when betting this weekend. All right, moving over to tight ends, usually a small list here. We do have a couple of value plays, and then all 3 up top do find themselves in some pretty good matchups. Sam Laporta, if you're using Jared Goff or stacking that game up, obviously a fine option. Keep in mind, pretty much every tight end busted last week, so yes, they might have had a pedestrian game, but so did everybody else. Travis Kelce, if you're playing Patrick Mahomes, obviously that makes a lot of sense there. Trey McBride, if you are stacking that game up, fine option. You're going to get heavily targeted from Kyler Murray. Then George Kittle purely would only play if I am playing Brock Purdy with that stack. Other than that, we do have fine punt options down low. Kobe Parkinson, I think him and Travis Kelce will be the 2 highest owned tight ends of the week. Obviously, pretty much got the majority of the burn at the tight end position last week for the Rams. Had 5 targets in that game, I believe 4 catches, if I remember correctly, but he'll be involved. Facing Arizona, he's $3,100. Obviously, no Puka Nacua, so just opens up more targets in that offense. And then with David Njoku out, Jordan Akins, based off their depth chart, they have nobody below Akins. I'm sure, obviously, they're going to have to call somebody up. But he will be the tight end 1 this week. He's $3,000. It means absolutely nothing. But Deshaun Watson has performed well historically versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. They don't exactly have the best defense in the world, but this is purely just a playing time play. He's $3,000. He'll be on the field. That's really all you can ask for. All right, so let's finish this lineup off. We have a wide receiver 3, a defense, and a flex. I'm just going to throw in some cheap defense here. I think the Seahawks got the New England Patriots on the road. You can play the Patriots defense if you wanted over Seattle. I don't really care. But we'll throw in the Seahawks at 3K. And then we have $6,000 pretty much for the last 2 spots, which is nice because I know there's a couple of wide receivers I really like at around $6,000. Chris Godwin being one of them. We don't have any of that Tampa Bay Detroit game, which I would like to get to some. So we'll play Chris Godwin there at $6,000, and then we should have enough money for Malik Neighbors, I believe. You could triple stack if you wanted with Xavier Worthy, but I don't really feel too comfortable doing that. Jerome Ford's obviously a fine option, but I like Neighbors here at $5,900, and I think that's a pretty solid build. So we have Patrick Mahomes double stack with Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. I didn't do a run back option. If you wanted to play Jamar Chase, Yoshi, Kiseki, I guess, whatever you want to do, you can, but you don't always have to do that. We have Charbonnet and Mason at running back. They're cheap, and the original RB1 is out, so they're just going to get guaranteed volume. No Puka Nacua, Demarcus Robinson makes plenty of sense. I do have projected, I believe, for 6+ targets in this game. Godwin fits, Neighbors I like, and then the defense, it is what it is. Like I said, don't copy and paste this. Please use your own judgment, build your own lineups, but you can use this similar process to your own favorite plays to make your own solid lineups, and this is really kind of geared towards single entry type builds. All right, like I said, I want to run the optimizer here, see which players are populating. I removed the ownership projections, and obviously these are not final projections. I do make updates up until pretty much lock, depending on what kind of news ends up dropping. But if I am just doing a dry build here, let's just throw in 10% randomness, and then for the team stacks, or position stacks, I should say, we're going to stack our QB with the wide receiver, tight end from the same team. That could give us 2, it could give us 1. We could specify what teams, because if you wanted to exclude a certain team that has a rushing quarterback, you can certainly do that, but I'm just trying to do this quickly. And it seems like we got our builds here. I just tried 150 really quick. Obviously did not play with any exposures or anything. And if you were someone that is doing 150, I'd highly recommend doing that, because I would not run 100% Cooper Kupp. Even with some randomness on Cooper Kupp, the projections just so well on him at his price point. Jamming in every lineup, same with Jordan Mason. Obviously these guys are more than likely going to be the highest owned players on the slate, if not very, very close to it this weekend. But a lot of Rashee Rice, and a lot of that is probably being paired with Patrick Mahomes. Kobe Parkinson getting jammed in there at only $3,100. But there really shouldn't be any surprises here. I just want to make sure we're following the rules. So we click on Mahomes here. We should have at least one pass catcher with them. As you can see, we have Rashee Rice paired with them. Rashee Rice again. And since it's going really cheap tight end almost every single time, it doesn't look like we're getting too much Travis Kelce, but that's something you can play around with your exposures. Like if you drop Parkinson to, let's say 20%, obviously it's going to start populating more of Travis Kelce in our lineups, and it would obviously change some other things around. But it is satisfying the needs we gave it. So if we go to Brock Purdy here, try to find some Brock Purdy lineups. So it looks like we're going to have Deebo Samuel pair with him. That's probably going to be a very popular pairing option because with Kobe Parkinson getting jammed in so much, it's probably not getting to too much George Kittle, I would imagine. And some of the teams it likes the most should be no surprise, but the Los Angeles Rams, San Francisco 49ers, Kansas City Chiefs, more than likely going to be the 3 highest owned teams on the slate just due to the players and the salary we have. And with players missing, I mean, they're just going to get jammed in. That's just how it's going to be this week. And if you guys do want access to any of the extra content that I show you guys, like the entire spreadsheet with all the projections, ownership projections, just the entire model on there, and my optimizer is not Fantasy Cruncher. It is not SaberSim. It has all the settings you want, and it uploads all my projections to it, and it does get the job done. And I also do have support for showdown slates as well. But with that being said, that's all I got for you guys this week, so I hope you enjoyed. If you did, or even if you didn't, make sure you leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you all next time.